Okay, any further questions from our board?
Just one more. You're coming back in April?
I am.
Are you going to be speaking or presenting at a conference, or?
Yeah, we've got
Leading schools.
the leading schools of the future, and then I just sort of like say, put me to work. And let me tell you, my friend back here is very good at that. But for me, it's inspiring. Like when people say you must be, like last May when I got here, nine straight months of travel, only home for Thanksgiving and December holidays, daughter, senior year in high school, so I missed a lot of that. And people say you must be exhausted. And then I get here, and it was just like so energizing. And that's why I'm deeply grateful for what you guys are doing here. It's just such, it is inspiring to see the great work. And I do actually totally believe you guys are going to lead the way forward for our country, for the world.
I do have a question myself.
Sure.
There's a state, at least in my short time as being part of this board, the term or the concept of empowerment keeps coming up. And wherever I go talking to the world of education, that term is always used, but never defined. So I'd like to get your perspective, if I could, as to what you perceive or what your perspective on the term or the concept of empowerment is. So you've gone to 50 states, visited 200 schools. Do the other schools even talk about that, or are we the only state?
I've seen lots of absences. What I find is when I talk to students, most and then some. Most students, when I say, what are you working on? They'll say, well, I'm working on what I've been told to work on. When you go to a lab, when I say, what are you doing? They say, I'm doing step 3. I say, well, what's step 3? They say, well, that's a step after step 2. Where you see it's really different is you'll go to some schools, some environments, and they'll say, I'm really interested in solving this problem, so I'm reading this. Or I'm really curious about this area, so I'm reading this. Or I'm working with my teammates to come up with this initiative, so I'm doing. And it's in the context of something that they believe has a real purpose to it. And so I don't use, in my writing, empowerment. It's a great term. I really talk a lot about purpose. Because at the end of the day, I feel like, and this is again broad, not Hawaii specific, but school is unfortunately hollowing out a sense of purpose for millions and millions of kids. Because we tell them over and over again, do something to pass this test, do something to get this grade, do something to please some anonymous 28-year-old college admissions officer, when we could be saying, let's start having you identify problems that are important to you. One of the most powerful things I see is when schools work with the outside community. I'll give you an example, and I'm going to bore you to tears with this, but I want to. So in Albuquerque, New Mexico, visualize this: the poorest Hispanic kids in the state, thrown out or dropped out of regular school, would ordinarily never get their high school degree because they can't pass algebra. Which, by the way, show me an adult who uses algebra, I'll give you a reward. And there's a different school that connect these kids to real problems in their community. So one of the community organizations that said they needed help was the Albuquerque Soul, the semi-pro soccer team. They said, there's this stuff out there we don't understand called social media, and we want to use it to grow our fan base. Do you happen to have any 15-year-old Hispanic kids who would want to help a soccer team with social media? These kids are like on it like you wouldn't believe. And so suddenly they can't wait to get to school. They're solving a problem that matters in their community. They're developing a really valuable career expertise. It's intellectually challenging. And every community in Albuquerque, every organization in Albuquerque, every organization in Honolulu, there's just not an organization around that couldn't benefit from help on that. So you start to see connecting these kids with problems. When you say, why is this an important thing to do well on? Their answer in one way, shape, or form is it will make the world better, or it will help me develop a set of skills so I can help make the world better. And that's how you get, I don't know if she's still here, but the Annie Valentines of the world, instead of the kids in high school whose only question is, will this be on the test? And so to me that's, and same thing with teachers. Teachers, I am the biggest fan of teachers, and they are dedicated and they work like crazy, but again, nationwide, an awful lot of teachers feel like, man, they've just been put in a straitjacket. And I visited, I visited the National Teachers Hall of Fame in Emporia, Kansas. They have a knoll with memorials for all the teachers in our country who've given their lives for their students. And so in my book, I write about the fact that, isn't it interesting, we'll trust teachers with the lives of our kids, but we won't trust them to develop their own lesson plan. I mean, that is the anti-empowerment. And so those are the things I see. But, you know, and they will. It's like it's human nature, right? If you have a say in your goals, if you're trusted to do great work, you stretch yourself. You do the most amazing things. And, you know, so that's the opportunity.
I like the use of the term purpose. That resonates strongly with me. Yeah. And I did watch your film, so I was very impressed with that. I would encourage any other board members who have not seen the film to do so, if it's going to be shown in the fall. But I'm sure we can find it some other ways.
We'll make that happen.
So, very impressive film. Thank you for all the great work you're doing across the nation. And again, thank you for visiting us.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. It's really great. So.
Thank you. Okay, we are now moving on to the action items on our agenda, and we'll again accept public testimony.
No testimony at this time, Chair.
Okay, thanks, Gina. So first, we have action on the resolution recognizing Deputy Superintendent Stephen Schatz for his service. And the resolution reads as follows, and I'm going to read the whole thing because I think you deserve it. Whereas Deputy Superintendent Stephen Schatz has been an exceptional educational leader for more than 20 years in California and Hawaii, whereas Mr. Schatz has dedicated his career to public education, serving as a teacher, vice principal and principal in California from 1994 to 2002, vice principal at Waialua High and intermediate from 2002 to 2004, principal of Pohakea Elementary from 2004 to 2009, complex area superintendent from 2009 to 2011, assistant superintendent for the Office of Strategic Reform, then Office of Strategy, Innovation, and Performance from 2011 to 2015, and deputy superintendent from 2015 to 2017. Whereas Mr. Schatz has shown his commitment to advocating for students in communities with high poverty by inspiring staff, motivating students, and actively engaging families and stakeholders. Whereas while at Pohakea Elementary, Mr. Schatz provided outstanding educational leadership reflected in improving reading and math test scores during his tenure as principal. Whereas Mr. Schatz led the state's $75 million Race to the Top grant award, which funded transformational changes in public education, moving Hawaii from high-risk status to being recognized by the U.S. Secretary of Education as a model for the nation. Whereas Mr. Schatz has been instrumental in leading large-scale system change to support student achievement through the use of data tools to drive school improvement, the establishment of performance management routines, and project management of initiatives, and alignment of schools' academic plans for school improvement with the Board of Education and Department of Education Joint Strategic Plan. Where Deputy Superintendent Mr. Schatz has focused on achieving better outcomes and setting high expectations for students in schools through advocacy for college and career readiness, identifying and scaling of bright spots, spearheading the focus on 9th grade transitions and developing leaders system-wide. Whereas the commitment, dedication, and leadership of Mr. Schatz has enabled the Board of Education and Department of Education to provide an outstanding public education and proudly serve the children of Hawaii. Now therefore be it resolved that the State of Hawaii Board of Education hereby extends its heartfelt appreciation to Mr. Stephen Schatz for his dedication and meaningful, significant contributions in education of Hawaii's children with the spirit of aloha. And this resolution was proposed and approved by the board at its February 21st, 2017 General Business meeting. May I get a motion to adopt this resolution? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I hope not. Congratulations, motion approved.
I'll just add my very big thanks to Steve for all of his help and support over the last few years. I don't think people realize what it was like to understand and to work under a race to the top, because it was very constraining. And we were put on high-risk status for probably the first time the U.S. Department of Education ever took that action. It was really a low point. And then Steve had to, every week, speak with the the U.S. Department of Education about what we had done that week. You talk about a burden, but he worked through it and managed to turn it around, managed to take some of the things that we felt really were not working for Hawaii, although it was in the original plan, and convince them to move things. And I will tell you, moving that is not an easy task, working with the federal government. And through that, I think he showed a resilience beyond what I can even imagine. But beyond that, I think this bright spot thing is what brings him so much energy, because it's exactly what we were just talking about. It's finding those wonderful things that are happening in schools across the state and finding a way for those schools to share it and to spread it and to create a system that fosters that sense of innovation and that joy that comes from making a difference in kids' lives. And so with that, Steve, you still got to work another week. Don't let this get to your head. But good luck. We'll be working with you some more.
Thank you. Steve, would you like to say a few words? I hate to put you on the spot, but...
Well, I have 4 minutes.
You get the last say.
So, no questions. So I just want to say thanks for recognizing me and my work while I've been here at the Department of Education. I'm really happy to be going to P20. Still will be involved in advocating for high expectations for kids to achieve their dreams. Still in the game, just playing a different position. And you know that you'll have an advocate in me in working on implementation of this board and department's strategic plan, because I think it's a great document and something that we can all work towards on behalf of kids. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm happy to say we have another resolution. We have action on the resolution recognizing the governor's ESSA team and Hawaii's blueprint for public education. I'm going to abbreviate this resolution because this one's even longer. Whereas on December 10, 2015, President Obama signed into law Every Student Succeeds Act, a historic new law to transform public education for all states across the nation, and described as the greatest devolution of federal authority to states in last quarter century by the Wall Street Journal. Whereas on April 14, 2016, Governor David Ige announced the creation of the ESSA team to maximize opportunities and possibilities for Hawaii to transform public education that are presented by the new federal ESSA law. Whereas the board approved the board and department's strategic plan for 2017-2020 unanimously on December 6, 2016, following collaborative meetings with the governor and his ESSA team to align the plans. Be it resolved that the State of Hawaii Board of Education commends Governor Ige and his ESSA team for their hard work and dedication to public education expressed in the process of developing the governor's blueprint for public education. Be it further resolved that the State of Hawaii Board of Education commits to partner with Governor Ige and his ESSA team to ground educational improvement and innovation in a collective strengths-based approach guided by the Naho Pena Ao framework to secure resources to realize their vision of becoming nationally recognized as a top public education system in the country, and to prepare students for high skills careers in the 21st century. This resolution was proposed and approved by the board at its February 21st, 2017 General Business meeting. May I get an approval or motion for approval of this resolution? Okay, all in favor? All right, thank you. Motion's been approved. I'd like to ask Board Member Galera to accept this resolution. I'd just like to add again the great and hard work and time that was committed by the ESSA task force in putting together their blueprint. And I want to again extend our appreciation on behalf of the board for the collaborative effort that took place. I agree with Board Member Min that again it was a very collaborative and transparent process, and we dealt with issues in an honest and frank manner, but we were able to resolve and come together and have consensus on what we feel is the right direction for the state. So thank you very much. Any comments or questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Our next agenda item has to do with the proposed legislation with possible legal implications. And I don't know who's going to be providing the update on this item. Oh, sorry, my bad. Yep, sorry. Hold on. Next, we have action on the findings and recommendations of the investigative committee conducting the special review of the State Public Charter School Commission. The investigative committee's report with its findings and recommendations was presented at the previous board general business meeting. In accordance with Sunshine Law, we did not deliberate or take action on those findings and recommendations at the meeting, but we may do so now. I'm going to apologize because I don't have my glasses today. So now I can appreciate it even more what was presented today, so apologize.
Mr. Chairman, on behalf of the committee, if the members would turn to page 7 of the report, that way I don't have to read the entire content. But on behalf of the committee, I move for the adoption of the recommendations contained on page 7 of the report, except that in terms of parenthetical 3, that would be revised consistent with the memorandum from Kenyon 10 that the commission work with the charter school community to develop a purpose of charter schools and propose a board policy codifying the purpose, rather than have the board do it through an investigative committee. That's what we're replacing. So that's my motion.
Okay. Any discussion?
I would like to indicate that this process of an investigative committee was difficult because it started off with a listening tour to hear the grievances of the charter school community. But in doing so, it gave voice and opportunity to de-escalate conflict and allow the commission to work with the respective charter schools in understanding the lack of communication and difficulty that the charter schools were experiencing. In conducting a review, the board utilized its staff who had experience working for the commission, and in doing so, it established a process and procedure that was collaborative, comprehensive, and I think very clinical in its approach. It divorced itself from emotion. It did extensive interviews, surveys, and I think the result really spoke to the need for everyone to work together. And I think the report was done in that spirit, recognizing the strengths of the commission, recognizing the strengths of the charter schools, and I think the biggest bright spot is the fact that the commission hired an executive director that has a sincere desire to collaborate and work with the charter school community. we cannot say enough about the new executive director in his spirit, his sincerity, and his ability to have people work together. And so I want to emphasize that positive spirit that's existing. And I think we have a lot of confidence that the commission will work with the charter school community to instill confidence. And I think the charter schools recognize that the commission and its staff will be supportive and not punitive in its approach to problems that the charter schools may experience. So thank you very much to Kenyon and Allison for all their hard work. Thank you.
Okay, any further discussion? Board Member Voss?
Just as one of the members of the committee, I also want to thank Allison and Kenyon, who did a terrific job organizing it. Brian, Hubert, and I were among the people who interviewed the people, all the interested stakeholders here. And I was interested today, we heard about, the meaning of empowerment being purpose. And what I gathered from all those interviews and the public testimony is both the sense of purpose and the sense of commitment that everyone involved in the charter school shows, from the commission to the staff, all the people at the schools who took the time to express their opinions. And I personally am very pleased and very optimistic. There obviously were some communication issues. I think the executive director is addressing those. And I personally think the charter schools, given sufficient funding, are on the right track.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Okay. Hearing none, then I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Motion's been carried. Next, we have action on the Finance and Infrastructure Committee's recommendations concerning the Kalihi to Ala Moana School Impact Fee District. I would like to invite Committee Chairperson Chun to present the committee's recommendations.
Mr. Chair, as I had referenced earlier, the committee deferred action on this matter, so it'll be presented at a later board meeting.
Thank you. Finally, we have action on the Human Resources Committee's recommendations concerning the reduction in force, and I would like to invite Committee Chairperson DeLima to present the committee's recommendations.
Mr. Chairman, the committee had made some requests for additional information to be brought to the general business meeting. However, that information and issues were raised in the executive session. Inasmuch as the first item in the executive session is that topic, with the chair's permission, I would like to move and go into executive session for items stated on the agenda, and then when we come out of executive session, we can take action on that item.
Thank you. Any discussion?
We would need a second.
Okay. Any discussion? Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion's been approved. Thank you. We'll now vote on going to executive session.
I thought that's what we just did.
Oh, sorry. Okay. So we have to please turn off your mics.
Okay.
That's your laptop.
Oh, yeah, I'll just, oh, yeah, yeah. Just leave it there. I'll make sure she gets that.
Okay, we're good.